Again, we are in Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12. The writer of Hebrews is encouraging this believing community. It's they're real people. They may have been in a different time and different place and different garb, but they're people just like us. And they've been serving the Lord, and the pressure is increasing. It's the late 60s of the first century. Persecution is increasing on believers, increasing from the Roman Empire, increasing from their brothers and sisters who are Jewish that are not yet believers. And so the temptation to I'm tired. They're like, I'm tired. I just want to just go back to what it was, just to kind of fade back, to drift away, to go back to what's normal. They don't know that the temple is going to be down, is going to be destroyed in 2 years. They don't know what's coming, and so in their exhaustion, the writer of Hebrews is spurring them on. He's exhorting them and pointing them toward, don't go backward, but Yeshua is the better. He's the better mediator. He is the better high priest. Everything there was pointing toward what he's doing. And so don't model your life after our fathers who died in the desert because they stopped believing, right? That that's not who we want to exemplify our lives after. Rather, model our lives after those who through trust, who through perseverance are inheriting the promises. And so he goes through, again in Hebrews 11, famously goes through all of these that have gone before us, that have persevered and have trusted the Lord. And again, there are those who by faith they escaped the power of the sword. And there are those who by faith gave their lives, were killed by the sword. And you have those who suffered, those who were facing difficulties. He says all of these were borne witness to through faith in 11:39, not receiving the promise. God, concerning us, provided something better, in order that not without us they would reach the goal, they would be made complete. Therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses laid around us, as it were, surrounding us, let us also get rid of every weight and entangling sin. Let us run with endurance the race set before us, the agona, the agony, right? So it's and what's key here, and really what's key to what's being expressed here in Hebrews chapter 12 is the endurance that's needed for the race, for this contest, for this struggle. So the word agona, agony, it means it's not just it's not a sprint. It's something that has you agonizing through it. So we need to run that with endurance. And in doing so, focusing on Yeshua, the initiator and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and he has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. And so what you have now, it's saying, Yeshua, he ran this race. Focus on him. He has completed it perfectly. He finished the contest perfectly. He went through the agony perfectly, and now being victorious, he is seated at the right hand of the Father. And as we know, continually alive to make intercession for us. Verse 3. So think about him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you may not grow weary in your souls and lose heart. When you're tired, when you're weary, when you're facing unjust suffering, focus on Yeshua. When you're ready to just quit and you say it shouldn't be this hard, focus on Yeshua. Consider him. When it says consider him, It's this word analogiste, ana, upward, and logos, having to do with logic or consider, rationale, think, to give serious thinking through reflection, comparison, and then conclusion. Consider the hostility he endured. You may feel like you're being mistreated, that you're suffering abuse unjustly, but think about Yeshua. Because as innocent as you may feel, or you may even be, you may be facing things that you're like, I don't deserve this. He was without sin. Hebrews 4:15, remember, it says, for we don't have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all the same ways, yet without sin. So in the midst of so we've got this metaphor of this struggle, of this agony, of this race that requires endurance. Fix your eyes on him. Consider what he endured. Verse 4, in struggling against sin, and the word for the struggle there has that word, the agona. So the struggle, and in your struggling, in your agonizing, in your fighting against sin, in your race against it, as it were, you have not yet resisted to the point of bloodshed. So again, we're called to in our agona, in our struggle, in the agonizing race, fix our eyes on Yeshua, because in our struggle, we've not yet resisted until the point of bloodshed. And the whole not yet there, by the way, isn't promising that we won't, right? There's the implication of not yet is that there may still be bloodshed that is yet to come. There's no promise, there's no guarantee or escape from bloodshed. So the whole idea is, so he's talking about don't lose heart. He uses the phrase to don't grow weary, which has to do with growing like sick in your souls, to go just weary in your souls, sick in your souls, and then to lose heart, or to basically fall apart, where you're just undone. It's just coming apart. He said, if you're getting weary, if you're losing heart now, the harder stuff may still be yet in front of us. If you're exhausted in the second quarter of a football game, the fourth quarter is where you got to have endurance. This is the whole idea, the whole image that he's giving here now with this contest, with this struggle, with this fight, is one of that requires endurance. And so whether it's a lengthy race, it's not about just sprinting out of the gate. It's about being able to finish the race. It's about at the end of the race, when you're exhausted, when your body wants to give in, obviously I'm a big football fan, and one of the things that I know is, in professional football, the games are really won or lost in the fourth quarter. They're lost in the last 2 minutes. I remember the year, it was terrible, the year back in 2007 when the Dolphins went 1-15. I mean, they lost 15 games. They were awful. And yet, I think 6 of those games, they lost by 3 points, right? They look like, we're 1-15, but they lost 6 of those games by a field goal. And they were games that were decided in the last minute. And we just saw the Olympics, and it's that endurance it's at that last, when I saw some swimmers, one of them, was it a 1600 meter race? It was like 32 laps. And the winner was going and going, and then in that last turn kicked in another gear and won it. It was incredible, but it's being able to finish. If you're wearing out in the beginning, if you're wearing out halfway through, how are you going to finish? And so that's where what we'll have here is this whole idea of training. Because for sports, if the way that, like right now, right, the NFL preseason is finishing up, and they've been going through training camp. And so the issue has been conditioning, getting your body in condition, being ready in game condition, because when they've been banging into each other over the course of 4 quarters, at the end, when they're tired, it's being trained to be able to finish. So the training to get there, that you don't just play the game and have that kind of endurance. There's a training that produces that endurance. And that's really going to be a focus here. And again, so while we're running, we're in this fight, in this struggle, in this contest, in this race, what we do is look to the one who is the champion of the race, right? The one who, fix your eyes on Yeshua, who won the race. How did he run it? How did he live? One of the things we become most discouraged about is when we face difficulties. And we're like, I thought it wouldn't be like this. I thought it would be easier, or this isn't fair, or I'm being mistreated, or I don't feel blessed, or I thought if I had enough faith that I would have lots of money, or I thought I would have this and that, and everything would go my way. And the moment it doesn't go the way we wanted it to, or the way we hoped it to, we begin to lose heart. And what you see is Yeshua actually said, if anyone would come after me, Luke 9:23, he says, saying to everyone, if anyone wants to follow me, he must deny himself, take up his cross every day, and follow me. So first of all, the picture of how we run this race, is we model our strategy, our run, our game, as it were, our contest after Yeshua, right? Who for the joy set before him, or it actually said against, like in light of or against the joy set before him, as though he didn't choose just like joy in the moment, but he endured the cross, scorning its shame, disregarding, I don't care about how it affects my reputation or what people say about me in that regard. He endured the cross and then said, if anyone wants to, you want to come? You want to come? Follow me. Deny yourself, right? The most counterintuitive thing that we can do is to deny ourselves. And yet the struggle we have continually is that we don't want to deny ourselves. And so that's what we're called to, run a race patterned after Yeshua. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. So now as we go into these next verses, we remember in Hebrews chapter 2, it said that he became like us in every way, right? He was made for a little while. It said he was made a little lower than the angels. He was made a little lower than the angels. He became one of us. It said in Hebrews 2:10, for it was fitting for him, through whom are all things and from whom are all things, to lead many children, or many sons, many children, into glory. The originator of their salvation through suffering to complete, or to perfect them. So through his suffering, he was leading the way. He's the first of many sons, and yet he is of a different kind, right? He is of another, he is the one that is, all things are from him and through him. And yet he became one of us. And it goes on in verse 11, for both the one sanctifying and the ones being sanctified, it's talking about the priest, and then the ones that the priest is ministering to are out of one are all the same. They're all of the same stock. For this reason, he is not ashamed to call them brothers. And so the imagery here is that Yeshua, having become one of us, becoming humanity, becoming human, became a brother of sorts. Again, of a fully human, and yet he is the eternal, the one that is the very essence of the character of God. That he is the the radiance of his glory, that all things are from him and through him, and he holds all things together by the power of his utterance. And yet he became one of us, and now we are sons as well. He is the Son. God has spoken to us through a Son, the Son, but we are now children of God. And so he's leading many brothers, many children, siblings, so to speak. And so we're following his example. Keep our eyes on again, it's not in any way intended to diminish Yeshua in calling him a brother of sorts. That's the picture it gives. He's the firstborn of many. We're the younger siblings, so to speak. And so it goes on and says, don't you remember what the exhortation that's given, the parakaleo, the exhortation that's given to us as children concerning how children are supposed to operate? And so now he quotes from Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11. He says here, have you forgotten? Has it escaped your notice? Has it totally escaped your notice is the language here. The warning, the exhortation that was addressed to you as sons, as children. And here's the repetition from Proverbs 3. My son, do not take lightly or do not despise or think little of the discipline of Adonai, or lose heart when you are corrected by him. Okay? Because, verse 6, because Adonai disciplines the one he loves and punishes every son he accepts. Now, there's three key words here, three key Greek words here that I want to address. But because initially when you read this, the initial thought here with our understanding of the word discipline might tend to connect, to bring about this idea that the suffering I'm going through is punishment, is discipline as in punishment for wrongdoing, so to speak. And so some people can take that and say, well, if you're suffering, it's because God's disciplining you, he's punishing you. And that can be an element of the overarching discipline, right? That's not fully excluded as a possibility. But it is only a part. It's only an aspect of the wider of the language for discipline. So the key word throughout this passage is the word paideia, which is it's from the word for child. So the word for discipline is paideia, which is to teach, to instruct, to train. He's talking about a father training his children. Or in the imagery of the contest, of the struggle, of the game, it's the coach training the teacher training the students, the coach training his players, but the father training his children. And so paideia is translating the Hebrew word musar, which is to admonish, to make straight. And so it's specifically, it's not about formal education, but to instilling values and norms of conduct. Okay, so paideia, this discipline, speaks to the upbringing, the overall upbringing of a child, the training up, the raising up of a child who is growing up to maturity. And so your child needs direction, needs instruction, needs a certain measure of compulsion where you have to push the issue in certain areas, and sometimes even, discipline that is punishment or chastisement. So paideia, discipline, is the training, is the education, which has to happen to form the child into the fully formed adult. The second word that's used is the word elego, which is to bring to light, to expose, to convict. And then the third word is mastigon, which is to chastise, can be to whip. So this would be where there is suffering, where there is spanking, as it were. And it's so the overarching metaphor here, again, being this struggle, says, look, you've got to endure. And so the key to winning games that require endurance is conditioning, is training. It's paideia, is training up. Don't forget what you were taught as children, right? So it says here, have you forgotten, my son, do not take lightly the training of Adonai, or lose heart when you are corrected, when he exposes your weakness. When in a game, when the coach comes and said, this is what you're doing wrong, right? When that happens, to be like, no, I'm not doing anything wrong, and to continue to do it the wrong way is to ensure failure. Don't be foolish and reject when the one who's teaching you exposes the weakness. It's not intended to destroy you. You know, in our own pride, when someone exposes our weakness, we take it as a criticism of our character, of our nature. And if it is in showing something, shining a light on a deficiency in our character, then the proper response is to be thankful that now I'm aware of what I wasn't aware of. It's not the natural response. Right? The natural response is defensiveness. The natural response is to reject, I'm fine. The wise response is to receive the instruction and to not lose heart when a weakness is exposed and brought to light. Right? It says, because Adonai punishes, he trains, or disciplines, Adonai disciplines, he trains the one he loves, and he punishes. So this is the chastisement, every son he accepts. There is chastisement involved here. So when he brings that to light, recognize what he's wanting to do and let the training do its work. Verse 7. It is for discipline that you endure. Again, the word here being paideia. It's for training. You're enduring because it's training you. This is your training ground. This is the practice field. This is the formation so that you can finish the contest, so that you can finish the game, so to speak, the race. It is for training that you endure. God is treating you as sons. He's treating you as his children. For what son, what child does a father not train, not discipline, not raise up, not educate? But if you're without training, if he's not training you, if you're without discipline and then something that all have come to share, we've all come to partake in. It says, then you are illegitimate, or the word for counterfeit. You're not really a son. You're not a child. If you're not being disciplined, if you're not being trained for endurance, then you're illegitimate, then you're counterfeit and not sons. The thought in that passage, it's striking to me because so much of the faith in Yeshua that we see expressed in our society, in our culture, is in defiance and in rejection of any kind of difficulty or suffering. The faith and prosperity gospel, and that makes it about, blessing in terms of, getting rich and never facing sickness and never facing difficulties, which Yeshua said, like what I don't see today often is we don't see lived out the deny ourselves. Again, it's counterintuitive. Denying myself is counterintuitive, but the path that we're called to walk is deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And that's the path that the one that went before us, who did it perfectly, went. And yet we have voices that are telling us, no, well, that was for him to suffer, but you don't have to. You're not going to face suffering. We often think that if we begin to struggle or face suffering that we've maybe done something wrong, when in fact perhaps the Lord is using this difficulty to form us because we're children. And that the other thing that you see out there, which appeals to our flesh, right? It appeals to our natural desires, that's counterfeit. It's not legitimate. When you see an Americanized faith that is really centered around our comforts, our rights, people are fighting for my way. It's all about me under the guise of faith. And we define our successes, our kingdom successes, in ways that have to do with money and power and big empires. Look at us, look how big we are, and yet you look at what's happened. Like, look at the church in persecuted countries and how it's growing, but it's growing, and it's in China, in house groups that are underground, and yet the people are what's being produced. If you ever read anything by Watchman Nee, who was in prison for his faith in China, and it's incredible the depth of faith, and when you go through that kind of training, it produces endurance. When you press through and you endure through the difficulties, then we become stronger. We are often, and we get so easily shaken and discouraged as soon as it gets uncomfortable. And the Lord wants to strengthen us, because what happens, again, just like these believers, they don't even know what's on the other side of this. They think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. Are we going to fall apart? Are we going to fall away? Are we going to turn away when it gets uncomfortable? And the Lord wants us to stand strong and to be made strong in these present difficulties. Are momentary, are light, and compared to what the Lord has for us. And the Lord is using this to produce Yeshua-like character in us. Fix your eyes on him. Look, Yeshua said in Luke 21, he says, before all these things, they'll grab you and persecute you, handing you over to the synagogues and prisons and leading you away to kings and governors on account of my name. This will lead you to be a witness. So make up your minds not to prepare ahead of time to defend yourselves. Establish in your hearts that you're not going to prepare ahead of time to defend yourselves. For I myself will give you speech and wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to resist or refute. But listen, you'll be handed over even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends. And they will put some of you to death, Yeshua said. And you will be hated by all because of my name. Yet not a hair of your head will be lost. And I want you to notice, people are like, wait, not a hair of your head will be lost. Wait, he means something grander than any kind of physical protection. He just said some of you will be put to death. How are some of you put to death, but you kept all your hair? Right, there's something that he's pointing to that's more than that. He says, by your endurance you will gain your souls. In John 15, Yeshua said, remember the word I spoke to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they'll persecute you also. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. And so, when you fix your eyes on Yeshua, who led the way, his way that he led, leading many sons into salvation, right, was through suffering, through difficulty. So when you're going through suffering, when you're facing discomfort and things you don't understand, fix your eyes on Yeshua, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame. Don't despise when the Lord exposes something in my character and your character that reveals in the midst of the difficulty that reveals, oh my goodness, I'm not reflecting the character of Yeshua. Lord, continue to form this in me. Let the suffering produce Yeshua likeness in me. I don't want to just fall dead in the desert and give up, but I need to press on and persevere. Verse 9, he says, besides, and therefore, he says, we're accustomed to having human fathers, and it's it kind of does it on the one hand and on the other hand. So we're accustomed to, on the one hand, having fathers of the flesh, human fathers, as instructors. Again, that's word as disciplers, paideia, discipline's been used, but it's the word instructors, instruction, training, as trainers. We're used to having human fathers of the flesh, as trainers. We respected them. Shall we not much more submit or be subjected to, or under the order of the Father of spirits? And it's the Father of the spirits and live. Now, when it says, people are like, what is that? The Father of spirits? Well, a couple of things. What you got to notice, the obvious meaning is you've got fathers of the flesh on the one hand. That's the language there, is those of the flesh, of sarkos, are fathers of the flesh. And then you have the Father of the Spirit, or spirits, Father of the spirits. So he is the spiritual Father. Yeah, you had your earthly Father, but now the spiritual Father, the heavenly Father, and he is actually the Father who is forming our spirits. What he's doing in us is so that we would live. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of the spirits, and live? He is the one who is working in our spirits to give us life. He's training us that we might live. If we submit to your earthly fathers, how much more should we be submitted to the training from the spiritual Father, from the Father of our spirits, so that we may live? His training, this pain, this suffering, this discomfort. If you've ever played sports and they've got you running laps and you're doing 2-a-days and and you're exhausted and you're tired, it's not because your coach is trying to destroy you so that you don't have any strength for the game, right? He's training you so that you will win. And in life, being trained is so that we will live, to live and to live eternally. That we aren't corpses in the desert who stop trusting what God has said, but we listen to his instruction and we let the training ground produce something in us. In the exhaustion, we get back up. And we keep taking the water of his word and replenishing. We keep listening and spurring one another on. And when your teammates are down and they're exhausted, and you come over with the Gatorade, with the water of his word, and you say, hey, remember Abraham, remember Isaac, remember, you got the strength. Let's get up and let's keep going. That's what we're being called to do here. This is not intended to destroy us. This is intended to strengthen us. It says, indeed, they, for a short time, they disciplined, the paideia, they taught us, they trained us as seemed best to them. But he does so for our benefit, so we may share or partake in his holiness. Verse 11, so his holiness in him being set apart, the one he wants us to live, it says so that we may live and that we might be set apart, holy unto him, to be partakers in his holiness. So that we are now cleansed and made holy by him, partaking in that. And he says now in verse 11, now all training, all discipline seems painful in the moment. Right? When you don't go, when the coach tells you to run laps, when he tells you one more, you're not like, oh, thanks, coach, when you're exhausted. It seems painful. It seems like it's intended to destroy. Right? But it's kind of like the discipline that the Lord brought, which was punishment indeed, but it was training to the exiles. It says, this is going to last longer than you want. It's going to be painful for a longer period of time than you expected. But I know the plans I have for you. I'm doing this not to destroy you, not to cause you harm, but to give you a hope and a future. That the pain is going to produce life. All of it seems painful at the moment, not joyful. But later, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Right? Later, it's peaceable fruit to the ones being trained by it, and it closes actually with the word yielding righteousness. If you allow the discipline, if you allow the difficulties, he's saying to these believers who are already facing persecution, I know it doesn't seem joyful. It doesn't seem like it can be doing anything good. It never seems like that in the moment. But recognize what he's producing in you, an endurance in you, so that you may live, so you may partake in his holiness. And that it will produce in you the fruit of righteousness. When you find yourself ready to grow weary and lose heart and be discouraged, don't grow. Fix your eyes on Yeshua so you don't lose heart, so you don't grow weary. He went through it. He was mistreated. He suffered, right? But he didn't open his mouth. He endured the cross, scorning its shame, because it would produce a harvest of righteousness. And he says, if you want to follow after me, get ready to walk through it. But it's producing something, right? It's producing something. Let it produce. Don't resist what it's producing. You know, when I've been at my top peak physical condition, I've told this before, but there were years that I would go to the gym and go through the motions and tell myself, oh, I'm working out. I don't know why I'm not losing any weight. I don't know why I'm not getting in shape. But I wasn't working out in a way that pushed me to discomfort, that pushed me to pain. I wasn't allowing the training to be challenging enough to produce something in me. It required a commitment, and to do it when I didn't even feel like it. And I kind of need to get back to doing more of that again. To not grow weary, to not lose heart, to fix your eyes on Yeshua and let him produce in you. He's not done with us. You may be disappointed with your current progress. You may be disappointed with your current way, but he's not done. He's still working in us. Amen? May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.